Welcome to the Refusion Podcast, where we transform patient care.
Welcome back to another episode of the Refusion Podcast. Again, here with you is Jennifer with my co-host John. Today we're diving into something that's becoming absolutely critical in healthcare: how referrals and online reviews are no longer separate strategies, but part of one unified reputation system.
Yeah, and this shift is happening fast. Healthcare is already one of the largest and most competitive industries out there. With spending hitting trillions and growing every year, providers aren't just competing on care anymore. They're competing on trust.
Exactly. And what's really interesting is how trust itself has changed. Patients still trust their personal doctors, about 85% do, but trust in institutions has dropped significantly.
Which means patients aren't relying on just one source anymore. They're cross-checking everything. A referral might get a provider on their radar, but it's not enough to seal the deal.
Right. That's where online reviews come in. Think of referrals as the starting point, and reviews as the validation step.
Let's start with referrals, because they're definitely not going away. In fact, over 60% of patients still rely on word of mouth and provider referrals.
But the role of referrals has evolved. They used to be the final decision maker. Now, they're more like an introduction.
Exactly. A patient gets a recommendation, and the very next thing they do is Google the provider.
And that's where things can either align or fall apart. If the reviews match the positive expectations set by the referral, trust is reinforced.
But if there's a disconnect, say the referral says great communication, but reviews mention poor responsiveness, that creates hesitation.
So referrals are no longer independent drivers of growth. Their effectiveness depends heavily on what patients find online.
Now let's talk about reviews, because this is where decisions really get made. Over 70% of patients consider online reviews when choosing a provider.
And what's even more telling, around 84% of people trust reviews as much as personal recommendations.
That's huge. It means reviews aren't just supplementary, they're equal in influence.
But patients aren't just scanning star ratings. Nearly half of them focus on the content, the actual experiences shared.
Yeah, they're looking for what we can call narrative alignment. Does the story in the reviews match what they heard from a friend or another doctor?
And if it does, confidence goes up. If not, it introduces doubt. So reviews act as a kind of risk filter. They help patients decide, is this provider really as good as I've been told? So what actually defines a strong healthcare reputation in 2026? It's not just about having a high rating anymore. It's a mix of several factors working together. First, there's the baseline expectation, around 4 stars. Anything below that can seriously hurt your chances. Then there's recency. Patients don't trust outdated reviews. If your latest feedback is from 2 years ago, that's a red flag. Volume matters too. People want to see a consistent pattern, not just a handful of reviews. And beyond the numbers, it's the themes that count. Are patients consistently mentioning good communication, short wait times, friendly staff? Consistency across those touchpoints builds credibility. And let's not forget engagement. Responding to reviews, especially negative ones, shows accountability. It signals that the provider is listening, which goes a long way in building trust. Now here's where things get really interesting. How do you actually align referrals and reviews into one strategy? It starts with treating them as connected, not separate. For example, collecting feedback from referred patients is incredibly valuable. Because they come in with expectations already set. Exactly. Their feedback tells you whether your actual experience matches what's being promised through referrals.
Another key piece is visibility. Reviews shouldn't just live on third-party sites. They should be integrated into your website and patient journey.
That way, whether someone comes through a referral or finds you online, they see a consistent story.
And internally, this creates a feedback loop. Reviews highlight issues, those issues impact referrals, and improving them strengthens both channels.
Let's touch on something that often gets overlooked: data consistency.
Yeah, it sounds basic, but it's critical. Around 67% of patients verify provider details, like name, address, and phone number across platforms.
If that information doesn't match, it creates doubt.
And it's not just about trust, it affects visibility too. Consistent data makes you more likely to show up in local search results.
So something as simple as keeping your listings accurate can directly impact patient acquisition.
Now let's talk about responses, because patients are paying attention.
Nearly 60% of patients are more likely to choose providers who respond to reviews.
And interestingly, over half are okay with negative reviews, as long as they're handled well.
That's such an important point. Patients don't expect perfection, they expect responsiveness.
A thoughtful reply within 24 to 48 hours can completely change how a review is perceived.
It turns feedback into a conversation rather than a static comment.
Measuring the ROI of reputation.
So let's bring it all together. What's the actual impact of all this?
Reputation directly affects revenue. Even a 1-star increase can significantly improve patient conversion.
And consider this, nearly half of consumers won't even consider a provider with fewer than 20 reviews.
Plus, almost everyone reads reviews, and the vast majority say positive ones influence their decision.
So this isn't just about branding, it's about measurable growth. At the end of the day, the takeaway is simple. Referrals and reviews are no longer separate. They're part of the same trust ecosystem. One starts the journey, the other completes it. And healthcare organizations that align both into a unified strategy are the ones that will stand out. Because ultimately, it's not about getting more referrals or more reviews. It's about delivering a consistent, high-quality patient experience that both reflect. Well said. That's what builds trust, and trust is what drives growth. Thanks for tuning in to the RepuGen podcast. We'll see you next time.
Thanks for listening to the Refugium Podcast, your path to better healthcare.